Hi.
Hi, welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and my guest today is Jewel Miller, returning, the mother of Legacy, together with Eric Garner, who many of us know was the victim of police-motivated killing on Staten Island 2 years ago. And welcome, Jewel, to Let Them Talk. Welcome again.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. So you've come all the way on this cold, cold day, ultimately from Staten Island, where
Yes.
you live and where
Yes.
you're raising your daughter, and who's 18 months now. She
Yes,
was
she
6 months ago. She was a year. Tell me, how's Legacy these days?
Legacy's well. She's meeting all her developmental milestones.
That's
She's
great.
18 months. She's doing good.
Good for that. And we'll have to have her on in a couple of years.
Yes.
If we're still doing the show, wherever we are, we'll definitely have her on, and she'll be the youngest person who's ever been on this show. It would be
Sounds
great.
like a plan.
Wonderful. All right, so a lot been happening in the case of Eric Garner, and I know you're wearing a button there, which tells me a lot. Right there, it says "Justice for Eric Garner" and for and Ramsey. I can't see it totally from here. And Ramsey Orta, and it's the STRA.
Staten Island against racism and police brutality.
Staten Island against racism and police brutality. Oh, there. And so solidarity, Ramsey Orta, justice for Eric Garner. So tell me, Ramsey Orta, to me, and we'll talk about the latest developments in the case against the police officers involved, how they were released without any charges except for one officer who's getting departmental charges. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm very fascinated in the case against Ramsey Orta, and that is because he was the person who actually filmed the incident that occurred, the tragic incident that occurred to your dear friend and father of your child. And so I know this it's not an easy thing to confront, to see that video, right? I mean, it must be the most horrific thing. When I see it, I feel a pit in my stomach that this could have happened in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
But thank goodness that Ramsey Orta had the presence of mind to film that.
Yes, yes. Ramsey is the people's hero. I mean, he really brought a lot to the surface with the video. Every action, frame by frame, he caught.
Mm-hmm. He had to have a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah.
And was he, afterwards, he was, after the video was made public and the officers were indicted, and although later to have most of the indictments, the indictment is thrown out, at least in the state of New York, he received what he believes was harassment, right?
Yes.
My understanding. What occurred? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Bring us up to date with that.
He's really been, they've been harassing him, him and his family, so I don't know why, I guess to shut him up, to keep him quiet. There's nothing else that could be done, like leave Ramsey alone.
It seems a little late for that, since the videos are even seen by untold millions all over Facebook, as well as on broadcast media across the world. So and it became the movement "I Can't Breathe," and that is what we've seen now. Even sports players, a football team, basketball teams, people wearing them on their jerseys, wearing stickers, holding their hands up in that. Well, that was a different situation. The hands up as well. I mean, those were the two major events that occurred that really sparked this whole Black Lives Matter movement.
And no indictments for the officers involved. No indictments.
How was that? They went before the Staten Island. You live in Staten Island.
Yes.
And we discussed this a little bit about last time you were on. Tell us a little bit about the politics of Staten Island. What's it like? It's a little bit.
It's a whole nother borough. It's like they have their own laws on Staten Island. They get away with everything on Staten Island. It seems like, no one is seeing that they're wrong, on Staten Island. Other boroughs, people get in trouble. Officers, even if it's a slap on the wrist. Staten Island, everyone's walking, and Staten Island is a racist borough. I mean, born and raised on Staten Island, so.
Why do you stay there?
I actually just came back 5 years ago, family. I lived in the Bronx for 18 years. I decided to come back to, be with my family.
And I know we talked about this 6 months ago, but for folks who might not have been listening to the show, how did that day break down to you? How did it, you received a phone call. I mean, what happened? I know it's difficult.
I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what? Eric? And the phone calls kept coming and people started showing up. It was a sad day, watching that video.
Since then, have you, because I know, have you received any sort of like mean phone calls or communications or anything like that? Have you suffered any sort of yourself, because the fact you were, obviously a supporter of Eric and his struggle for justice, have you received like any sort of bad phone calls or any sort of written or email sort of bad things or anything like that?
There were a few negative phone calls. There was a break-in sometime last year. I don't think that was really due to NYPD, but I don't put it past them.
Mm-hmm. Can you do you feel any tension or nervousness if you go around the borough from other citizens or anything like that, or from the police? No. Well, I'm glad. I just wanted to make sure that was true.
I really, half the time I watch them, but I paint them invisible.
Mm-hmm. I see. And so that's good. But you've been getting a lot of moral support, I hope, and support from folks in the city and around the country and Ireland. Right. Great. So what can you give me a little bit of background as far as how you've been reacting? What's been happening with the case now since these officers escaped indictment? It turns out that in the borough of Staten Island, with the district attorney who's now running for Congress, district attorney of Staten Island, Donovan, right? Dan Donovan, right? That's it. And he's now actually running for higher office for Congress. And what do you think? I mean, that tells me a lot. That tells you a lot about Staten Island.
It's a joke.
If the person who's responsible for no indictment and with that clear video is now running for higher office and is probably going to win.
Yes. It shows a lot about Staten Island. Staten Island hasn't changed in years, No.
And one of the officers was recently brought up under departmental charges. Sergeant Izzy Kizzy, right? Kizzy,
yes.
Right now. What do you think of that? I mean, is that justice? Is there any
justice?
No,
there's no justice in bringing, charges against Kizzy. If she failed to do her job, she should have been penalized. You penalized on her 18 months later, and an officer that you saw murder Eric has not been penalized. I mean, you take his gun and badge away, but he's still walking the streets of Staten Island. He's still terrorizing people on Staten Island. He should not be allowed.
Are you saying that from your own experience, or are you assuming that he's terrorizing other people?
Oh, no. He hasn't terrorized me, but I'm a member of Staten Island. He's walking around cocky,
I see. Did he receive a promotion?
Pantaleo,
Officer Daniel Pantaleo. He was. I just caught a headline. I didn't know what had happened. Maybe other folks can contribute that.
I haven't seen that.
So
one.
He actually is on the streets. Is it in your community still?
So I hear he's on the streets. They're saying he's kind of on desk duty somewhere, but
I see.
It's been a little cricket saying that he's back on the streets.
I see. Okay. How about the other? I know also the. I was not happy with the EMT response as well. There was the EMT people seemed a little bit. They should have, I thought, been a little bit more questioning of what had just gone on. I mean, they just came and carried Eric away and didn't really seem to be concerned with the.
She just tapped him and kind of was like, "Oh, you're okay, buddy. You're breathing.
That was in the report. I mean, the NYPD report says he was seen breathing when he was on the street. What did you believe that's?
No, I watched the video, frame by frame. And no, by the time she touched him, he was unresponsive. He was dead on by the time she got there.
So you think that's disingenuous or a lie?
Yes.
And why do you think that to play down the severity of what occurred?
Again, this is Staten Island we're talking about. I believe one of the officers, had it radioed in. There's no way a trained EMS worker would respond to a call of this magnitude and respond the way she did. She didn't respond with any kind of care or concern for the man that was laying there. So that tells me she had a heads up on what was going on.
I see. He could have radioed right at that moment somewhere off the video so you don't see it, and said, and then they,
and they came in,
they know what to do to handle that kind of situation.
Yes. Typical Staten Island.
I see, and that's why there's sort of a lack of real excitement. I mean, you see the video, the officers will show up, including the woman who's been charged, the sergeant, who's supposed to be responsible.
Yes, and what the reports say, that she said to stop. She told them to get off of him. This was one of the, in the New York Times, it's an article. And again, so if someone in control is saying to stop and you don't, then commands was broken. He did not,
Do you think that sergeant who showed up, the one who's been charged, who is basically a probationary sergeant, who had just recently been promoted to sergeant, was truly in charge of that situation?
As a black minority woman, I think they laughed at her, knowing that, listen, this is who we are. We're going to do what we came out here to do.
Right. Those two officers look like they were in charge of the situation.
They were in charge of the situation.
No probationary sergeant woman is going to come
up and tell. No woman is going to come in here and tell me. And a black woman? Huh? No.
So you see, I don't know if you're saying this, but the implication of what you're saying is that there was a cover-up right from the first second.
Yes, I believe they are, trying to cover up. I mean, we got...
And this would go to the highest level since, Donovan actually helped get them off or refused to indict them, right? Even though there was, Ramsey Orta risked his life, his reputation, and his life to
and still fighting for his life.
It turns out they just went into his record and they just pulled out every traffic ticket they could find and went after him for it.
Him and his family.
And he still has a lot of courage. He still stands up.
Yes, he does.
Are you in touch with him? Do you see him? Do you talk to him?
We speak.
What type of conversations can you tell us?
They're just, just making sure he's okay. What next, court date he needs support of,
Have you gone to the court dates?
Yes, I've been at several.
What's that like? What's the atmosphere like at the court dates for Ramsey Orta?
It's really love. He really has a lot of supporters. But again, we're harassed when we go there because we do support Ramsey.
What do you mean by harass?
Just the last court date that he was at, he pulled out his phone outside of the courtroom. They shoved him against the wall. Eric Garner was also there. Again,
she's running for Congress against Donovan.
They took her phone. Yeah, I did hear that. I did hear that.
It's the usual. It sounds what you were describing is it sounds the usual use of power in order to punish people who are on the wrong side of a court battle.
Yes.
When the court officer is going. So I understand and I've seen that before, right? And it's much more interesting to talk about the wonderful people who've come forward, to stand up and do what they can. And Erica, who's a daughter, older daughter of
she's the oldest.
The oldest. She is running for Congress.
I've heard.
That's exciting. Against this guy Donovan, who is responsible for this cover-up. So, do you think that the people in Staten Island are getting the feeling that there's a new day in town, that this isn't going to be as easy to sweep under the rug as maybe past times this has happened?
No, I don't think Staten Island has awakened.
No, this would happen again.
This will happen tomorrow on Staten Island.
The importance of filming, because Ramsey Orta, took, as we were discussing, had a lot of courage to film.
Yes.
And we all now have a video camera on us, because everybody in America, I think everybody in New York, probably has a cell phone that has a camera.
Yes.
And can take a video and can post that. That's probably one of the main reasons we've seen so many of these cases recently, and it's no longer so easy to keep it under the cover. And what's interesting is that even though photographs are taken, do you feel that those photographs really brought justice any more than, in other words, the film that Ramsey took? I mean, it's hurtful to see. It's enlightening and educational to America to see it and the world, but at the same time, did it really bring any more justice than would have come if
No, I think it kind of just exposed them for, you know, how they really are. Like, you really can't hide it now. Before, they just been hiding it and getting in the way and just was like, oh, they were acting like this, or they were resisting arrest. You know, they come up with all these stories. And the outcome is the same. It's, you know, young Black and Latino people laying on the ground. And it isn't right.
And the police are not...
And the police are not being charged with anything. You know, it's like they got a free pass. You know, as long as I wear blue and I got a badge, I get a free pass.
What do you think of this Blue Lives Matter, you know, counter to the Black Lives Matter?
That's a joke. You know, that's just a mockery. You know, the Black Lives Matter it's a joke. You know.
Why is that?
They've already been a secret society. You know, it's fucking ridiculous.
Right, so it's like a secret society saying their lives matter. It could be the Klan's lives matter, or the Mormons' lives matter, or somebody's life, but it's not really people.
It's the Blue Lives Matter. It's their secret society.
Right, not the actual flesh and blood human people who are left on the street, as you were describing earlier. Right. What do you think of that? I mean, do you give thought to that? You know, the whole response of like all lives matter, blue lives matter, this idea. What do you think of that? I mean, what do you think when people say those kind of things and they counter, what do you mean just Black lives matter? Why doesn't all the lives matter?
I mean, well, we know that humanly. We know all lives do matter. But until, you know, this systematic, you know, we get that together, of course, Black lives matter. You guys seem to have a hold on us that, you know, you have to keep we have to keep us under our feet. No, like, no more of that.
Speaking to Jewel Miller, who is the mother, speaking to Jewel Miller, who is the mother of Legacy, and Legacy is also the daughter of Eric Garner, and we were discussing Eric Garner, who was 2 years ago in July 2014 was killed by New York City police officer Daniel Pantaleo, who was then not indicted by a grand jury. And we all know that a grand jury, it's been said, you know, can indict a ham sandwich. So if the grand jury didn't indict this officer, it's because the district attorney didn't want the officer indicted. And now that district attorney is running for higher office for Congress, where he can bring his crusade against Black people to the national stage, and we were discussing how the oldest daughter of Eric Garner is actually running for Congress. I just read recently against him, and as a Democrat, the only candidate who had the courage to even run against him. So it's expected he'll probably shoo in, but maybe in a maybe in a Bernie Sanders landslide. Maybe she could get in, I don't know, in Staten Island. When we're discussing racism in Staten Island and how deep-seated that is, and how the people who live there, people of color who live there, feel, has been expressed to us here in the show, feel terrorized by their own police, do not feel at home in their own community.
Do not feel at home. There are no calling the police in the community. And truthfully, they say, you know, a lot of the police in my area are really rookies. And so much things happen right in front of them, and they do absolutely nothing. Nothing.
What do people do if they need to call the police? They just don't.
They don't. We take care of it ourselves. Calling the police is dangerous. It's dangerous. You don't know what's going to happen.
And you've personally experienced that and know it from personal experience as well, and tragic experience. Have you been in touch with with folks from the other aspects of this movement against police brutality? Have you been in touch with the people and families in different parts of the country at all, or through any sort of organization, or through the organization? Again, we'll show you the button, Staten Island Against Racist and Police Brutality. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, it's hard for me to see. And is that an organization that actually meets and has members and things like that? Yeah. Tell me about the kind of work your organization is doing.
Oh, this organization is based on Staten Island, and it's really from at Staten Island College. And a couple of the members there really got together and hit the streets once they learned what happened to Eric, and they've been fighting nonstop. So I've been really, they've been really in support of me, and I've been really in support of them. And we've just been getting together, planning actions and rallies.
Right. Now, I usually don't talk about money, but you know that's an aspect of this because it was in the newspapers. There was a settlement finally on a $75 million lawsuit in which about $6 or $7 million was paid out. I saw a couple of different numbers. Are you happy with the way it turned out, and is that justice?
No. There's no justice in a dollar. There's no justice in a dollar.
You wouldn't be here if it was all about money.
Money. That money don't mean nothing. I don't even know really the figures, even though Legacy is a heir. It's just so far removed from, you know, my spirit at this moment. Money.
It was just strange to me that they did settle. They did not admit any wrongdoing in the settlement, and then the officers are basically not indicted. What do you think of the federal government? Do you think that Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, is doing? You know, are the feds coming around doing anything?
They're not moving fast enough, but I'll be out there, and we'll be at their doorsteps February 24th. We're asking a lot of people to
really?
walk
What's
out of
happening
work.
on February 24th?
We're going right to the feds.
Where is that going to be?
Right in Manhattan.
Okay. At the district attorney's office,
yes.
the federal DA? Okay.
Yes.
Downtown.
So we're asking everyone to walk out of work, walk out of school, bring your kids. All of my children will be there. 9 a.m. call. I want to meet them with their coffee, you know, and ask them why. What is taking so long? You know, I wish I had a big Teletron when I could rewind the tape for them, you know, as they're coming in, because they're not getting it, you know.
Oh, I see. So who's going to be, so this organization is organizing this, right?
Sierra PB will be up. The event is not actually up. I'm just letting the date out today.
So it's February 24th,
yes,
right?
February 24th,
in the morning,
9 a.m.
Right in the morning, early in the morning,
yes.
Right at the federal courthouse where the DA's offices and all that.
We're asking for a walkout. Walk out of your job, let your kids walk out of school, meet us at the feds and demand justice.
Right, and what is that? Would demand justice in Eric's case?
Accountability.
And accountability?
Yes.
In the Eric Garner case? And what? Okay, and what kind of justice? And what are you looking for?
Lock up Panaleo.
On federal charges.
On federal charges, off the gate, and then we could trickle down.
Have you been interviewed by the feds? Have they come to talk to you yet? Nobody's talked to you.
No, no one's talked to me.
Has anybody from the mayor's office or anything like that talked to you?
We've had a family meeting.
What do you think
in the beginning?
Nothing since then.
Nothing since then.
What do you think of Mayor de Blasio's reaction to this, the way he's handled this, and Chief Bratton?
I don't know why they still have their jobs either. Like, they're all sellouts, you know, having meetings with them, and, you know, they're promising, you know, they're going to make changes. Nothing has been done. You guys are supposed to be the man or the men. Nothing. No. Stop and Fricks, Bratton, get out of here. Bratton is full of crap. His broken window policies.
They still enforce the loose cigarettes. I mean, the cop actually who's been brought under charges, her lawyer, has said that the mayor should be on, and the police commissioner should be charged because of their failed policy of enforcing quality of life crimes like not paying taxes on loose cigarettes, right? Which was what was allegedly the crime being enforced, which there was no evidence of course.
Not one cigarette.
Tell me more about
Not
that.
one cigarette found on him that day. Not one. Not even a lighter. You know. Mm-mm.
He had no cigarettes on
He
him.
had no cigarettes on him that day at all. He had nothing. There was nothing found in his pocket. Nothing found on the scene. No. They had no right to stop him for breaking up a fight. Mm-mm.
Is that what they said? He had broken up a fight?
What they said, the call came in is someone was waving a gun on Victory and Bay. No.
Nobody witnessed. No one testified.
There was
to it.
no gun on Victory and Bay. They went straight to Eric and harassed him.
Why do you think they did that? Was he the target from the beginning?
I think Eric was the target for the beginning. I think, again, they wanted to clean up Bay Street. They had this nice old Ferris wheel come in. So they're trying to really get Bay Street cleaned up. There's been a lot of other arrests on Victory and Bay with a lot of people that hang out there.
It's trying to get the people who hang out there to go away.
Yes.
And they saw Eric was sort of a leader, you know, a leading figure in a way, because people looked up to him.
People liked Eric. You could go to Eric and get a cup of coffee, you know, get in there and have a 20-minute conversation, you know.
Sort of like a social anchor on the block. So getting rid of him might get rid of all his friends and everybody. Yeah, he's a popular figure. You loved him.
Yes, he was.
Tell me the things about Eric you liked.
You could always call Eric. I don't care what time of day or night. For whatever reason, flat tire, whatever, and he would always be there. He would always be there to fix it.
So he was there for the community.
He was there for the community. You know, he helped me raise my 4 children, and due to the NYPD, he will not get to raise his last child.
Does she ask yet? Is she old enough to know or to ask?
Well, she knows that he's her father. She says that we show her pictures, buttons. She knows Victory and Bay. As soon as we get there, she knows the box is there and pictures are up of her dad, her sisters, her grandmother. But she doesn't know to say, well, where's Daddy at? Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of, you know, at the moment thankful that I don't have to answer that question.
But one day you might have to.
But one day I will.
Jewel Miller, thank you so much for coming again to Let Them Talk, and we'll have you again anytime to discuss this case.
Thank you so much.